I was in my office when I heard my youngest son yell from downstairs. I raced down the stairs into the backyard where my 7-year-old son had found her 3-year-old little body floating face down in the deep end of our pool. I ran to her side, and there was no heartbeat. She was not breathing. And immediately, I threw her over my knee to pat her on the back and dislodge whatever she was choking on, except, of course, she wasn't choking, and I knew that. I goofed up. So I rolled her over, and her head hit the deck, but there was no complaint. I tried to give her mouth to mouth, but it only came rushing out of her nose. So I closed her nose and tried again. This time it filled her chest and then just kind of stayed there. It didn't naturally expel. I knew that the oxygen was in her lungs, but that's not where it needed to be. It needed to be at her brain. So I gave her a few compressions. I gave her another breath, another round of compressions, and then she began to revive. After an overnight stay in the hospital, she fully recovered. But it wasn't until about 3 weeks later that it finally hit me. God had sent me an answer to my question, and I could finally see it. I could see that I had failed time and time again with her to keep her safe in the first place, trying to bring her back, hitting her head, coming out her nose. I kept failing. And suddenly I could see that our situation was much like her. I realized that I kept making mistakes, but there had been no time to bemoan them. I wasn't going to sit there and say, oh, I tried to give her mouth to mouth, but it came rushing out her nose. Darn it. Things never go my way. Nothing ever works out for me. There wasn't time to do that. Each mistake actually provided the feedback I needed that helped me ultimately get it right. If I had stopped for even a second to bemoan my mistakes, it could have resulted in her death or long-term handicap. Failure is just feedback. And that so long as we have breath to give, there's still time to breathe some life back into it. Yeah, we're supposed to learn from our mistakes. We're supposed to be sorry about them. We're supposed to try to make them right. But to dwell on them is death. You've got to stay in motion. I learned to bounce back quicker and focus on what we could do in the moment. I learned that no matter how bad things may seem, you always have all that you need to do the thing that needs to be done today. It's when you start thinking about what you're going to need next Tuesday or next month that you can get all locked up and useless. You got to put the blinders on and stay in the moment. If what you need to do in the moment is to avoid a certain problem in the future, then do that by focusing on what you're doing and not focusing on the disaster you're hoping to avoid. Stay in the moment. Do what you can do in the moment.
This has been A Little Bit of Wisdom with Leslie Householder. Listen to her podcast and download her books free at ararekindoffaith.com.